Hi, friends. Welcome to the Call to Farms podcast. I'm your host, Tim Ing, the homesteading agent, joined by my lovely wife, Sophie.
Hey friends, this is Sophie with Sprinkle with Soil.
We have a very interesting episode for you today. We get to interview Julia Mitchell. She is the lead educator for Ancestral Supplements, and we had such a great discussion on soil health as well as animal health. And Julia, it's very fascinating. She even raises her own bisons.
I'm really excited. We're going to deep dive into why it's so important that you have your daily liver intake so that you can look at how we get all of the nutrients that you need because we're not getting it from our food. Our soils are depleted, and this is one of the best ways to get it in for you and your family. All right, friends, without further ado, jump on in and listen to this episode.
Welcome, Julia, to the Call to Farms podcast. We are so excited to be interviewing you today. You are the lead educator at Ancestral Supplements, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey in answering the call to farms as well as your role with this company.
Cool. Yeah, it's really great to be here. And thank you so much for having me. Sure. So I'm a mom of two. And I spend most of my time thinking about food, how it's grown, what we eat, how we raise animals that we eat. My whole life, I feel like my whole adult life has really revolved around um, the idea or the question of how do we source and provide the most nutrient dense, nourishing food for me and my family. And so that's basically my entire life. It's how we spend our family time, it's how I spend my professional time. And so, yeah, that question is sort of one that I'm continuing to try to answer more deeply as I go. But yeah, that's essentially if you would call it a mission, my mission, my life's mission.
So that's really great, Julia. Thank you for sharing. How did you find out about ancestral supplements in your journey?
It was really serendipitous, sort of who I've worked with many people in my professional life and just kind of got connected with some folks who work there. And then it was just the right fit for the right need at the right time. But really, I've been practicing nose to tail eating, the incorporation of organ meats for years in my own diet, not as a supplement necessarily to begin with, because when I started eating organ meats and even paying attention to like the concept of nose to tail, these supplement companies didn't even exist yet and nobody was doing it. But yeah, I was one of those weirdos who was like, my kids are almost 7 and 5 now, and both of their first food was liver, just pureed liver. So I've always believed in very strongly the value of nose to tail eating and incorporating organ meats into the diet. And so when I was presented with the opportunity with Ancestral Supplements, it was sort of a no-brainer for me. I'm so proud to represent the company and what it stands for. And I mean, our mission and our vision for the company goes deeper than just the organ meats and the supplements we sell. It's the lifestyle. It's incorporating, elements of the past into the modern world in a way that's practical and can have really significant impacts on people's health and help them become stronger, happier, healthier versions of themselves.
Yeah, we're big believers of cooking with offals and eating organ meat as well. But to our listeners, why don't you share some of the benefits of eating organ meats?
Yeah, they are categorically some of the most nutrient dense parts of the animal and tragically get left out for various reasons. They're hard to process. They don't have as long of a shelf life. For many people, they are less palatable. I think that has probably come from, I would say, and this isn't like a scientific fact, but my guess is sort of like a palate adaptation over time away from organs as something that's delicious, although they can be very delicious when you cook them properly and you know what to do. But they are really nutrient dense. So if we take liver, for example, it is, people have said, and it's out there, that it's the most nutrient dense food on the planet, which there's not really many foods I can think of that come even close. It's really rich in a whole bunch of vitamins and minerals, including B12 and heme iron and vitamin A in the form of retinol, choline, folate, zinc. And when you compare apples to apples, or you put foods up against liver, gram for gram, it blows pretty much everything out of the water. So I believe 1 ounce piece of liver is the equivalent of like what I would consider a multivitamin, but it is a whole food. It's a real food that's been unprocessed and no, not synthetically derived in a lab. So it is a rich source of nutrition that has, over time been left out of the diet when historically our ancestors and you know more ancestral styles of eating have always incorporated the organ meats. Even you see it in the wild with wild animals. If they make a kill, the first thing they go for is the organs because they are so nutrient dense. And when you're looking for nutrient density and nourishment, that's obviously where to go. So yeah, unfortunately, they've been left out of the diet, and we've lost a taste for them, and we've lost an appreciation for them over time. And yeah, we're just trying to kind of reinstill that appreciation and incorporation into the diet in a way that is acceptable for people and convenient.
Yeah. I grew up with eating offals. That's something that, like, as growing up Asian American,
Mm-hmm.
prized. We all kind of fought for the liver, the chicken heart. Even with our children, whenever we process our chickens, we raise our meat chickens. That processing day, I literally will cook up 30 of our chicken hearts, and they'll just gobble it up. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Growing up, when my parents came to America, they were trying to source the organ meats. And when they asked their church sponsor families, they said, no, 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 we don't eat that here. That's dog food. And so that was back in the 70s, 1975, when my parents came to America. And so it's not been instilled in much of the American culture. I thought that even then, they were the Wheeler family. They're a very special family. They taught, my mom had a can. This is in 1975. As Asians, we don't really can our food at all. But yeah, they had all of those traditional skills. But one of the things that they didn't do was eat traditionally, which is, eating the offals, eating nose to tail.
Mhm.
So
I didn't eat that.
yeah.
I
And Tim,
I didn't grow up that way. I'm second generation, meaning my dad grew up in America. So then I'm the second generation growing up in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not used to eating liver, but now I am. I force myself to eat liver. And actually, my mother-in-law knows how to cook beef liver. And so it is actually very tasty. But
I,
before that, I was relying on some supplements and
well, I
things.
think that it wasn't until recently we were looking into men's health, like, men's
Yes.
health and testosterone, and how you really should be thinking about, like, eating some of the, what we say, like testicles, but it's hard to source clean.
Very.
When we started looking into that, and you realize that, oh, well, beef liver or liver actually has a lot of
Mhm.
the supplements that you need, the natural supplements that you need, like the choline,
Mm-hmm.
zinc, the folate. And then that's when
We
you
raise
really
our
were
own cattle, so that's why
right.
source of clean. Yeah.
Hmm. And you were craving it then, but then of course we raise for our homestead. So we just really have one cattle every
Mhm.
18 or 24 months. And so we actually work with other local farmers around us for their liver. But in the last couple of months, we've been really deep diving into the different types of supplements. And there's a lot of companies out there
Yes.
that reached out to us to say, hey, let's send you a sample or so. But one of our biggest concerns has always been the sourcing. And so I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
talk about how Ancestral Supplements, one, how you source. And then I know offline we were just talking about gelatin, because that's something that we are pretty sensitive to. And for your bottles, it says gelatin capsule, but it doesn't specifically say bovine. So would love for you
Mm-hmm.
to talk through that.
Yeah, so we are very conscious and conscientious about our sourcing. So all of our organs and glandulars come from our grass-fed, pasture-raised animals. We source from New Zealand and Australia exclusively. Those two countries seem to be producing a lot of the grass-fed, high-quality
Yeah.
animals that the industry is looking for. So it's pretty common. And then our capsules are 100% bovine. So beef-derived gelatin,
Mhm.
beef-derived glycerin, and water are the three ingredients in our capsules. And that's about it. And we actually have our capsules. we receive third-party documentation from our capsule vendor to ensure quality. Like they're always testing the capsules for purity. And then we also have levels of quality testing throughout, our entire distribution process to ensure quality for the rest of it. We test for all kinds of things. So I would say we have a pretty vigorous process. And then, yeah, we try to keep the ingredients very minimal. Even, when we're coming up with new formulas or innovative products, we're always thinking whole food first. It has to be natural. We're not putting in synthetic additives that are like having to be synthesized or made in a lab. It has to be a natural product that would exist on its own, and then we add it. So for example, we'll add like mushroom powder because it's just mushroom, freeze dried, same process as we do for our organ meats. So we really try to adhere to that principle to keep our products, to hold up the integrity of the brand, and also to just stand by what we try to promote, which is whole natural foods, but in a way that's convenient, not lab made additives or synthesized vitamins that are put into a capsule and then eaten. So we really want to provide the organ meats and the benefits of these foods, but for a lot of people, we realize it's not very accessible. Like you're saying, sometimes liver, you can only get one every 24 months, or your testicles, you get 2 testicles for one animal. And sometimes those animals have already been castrated, so you're missing those. So it really depends on the process and what your animal is providing. But yeah, it's just in our day and age, it's very hard to source these things. The average person who goes to grocery store is going to be hard pressed to find pretty much any organ meats. You'd have to ask your deli counter, and maybe they'll have some. Liver is becoming a little bit more common. Like I live in a really small town, and I'm starting to see it like off the shelf a little bit more often, but not in every store. So yeah, we want to really try to make it convenient for people, but stick to like really keeping it pure. Like it's just organs, freeze dried and encapsulated, and that's it.
That's awesome. And I know you have your grass-fed beef liver. Can you talk to, and it says grass-fed and pasture raised, absolutely no fillers or flow agents. Can you, grass-fed, can mean different things depending on management. Can you tell me how you're sourcing it over in Australia or New Zealand for grass-fed?
So basically what it means is that the animals are fed just grass. So they're not being fed in a feedlot with grains and other types of food. They are just eating grass. And it may be that they're in a pen for a little bit at the end, but they're eating hay or forage that's appropriate to them, not being fed like corn and soy and grain fed products. So the most, I would say, across the industry, most cows, even if they are finished on grain, are grazing for the majority of their life before they're brought into a feedlot and then like so-called fattened up on something else. But for our animals, they are grazing for most of their life, and they may do some finishing, but it's grass. It's grass.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know how the standards are. I mean, we know that some of the meat that we buy, if we had to, when we're traveling and we're not bringing any of our meat with us for conferences and we're going to a natural food store, we'll stop by and grab some grass-fed, grass-finished, and we understand that they're going to be finished off clean, at least in the United States with grass, but don't know what the standards are exactly for New Zealand or anywhere outside of the US. And I think for the most part, it's probably safe to assume that it's a little bit cleaner than it is here in the US.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say so. And I'm not sure if and this is sort of the hard part about the industry in general and labeling and process procedure and agricultural practices, is a lot of it is ill-defined. There is no consistency across labeling, and so it is hard to know. I know now even some of the meat that it says, it'll be raised, for example, some people like to keep things in America, and I'm Canadian, but I understand Americans, like there's a patriotism and you want to support America, which is totally understandable. And so they want to buy American raised meat. Now, a lot of meat's being grown in Brazil or elsewhere, New Zealand, Australia, shipped in kind of a carcass, and then it's processed in the US. So it's like it's cut up and packaged in the US, and on the product it'll say manufactured in the US. And so everyone thinks that animal is actually raised on US soil. Not the
Mhm.
case. But
Mhm.
there is no regulation around how we label
I
food
know.
like that. And it is kind of
Got it.
a
Mhm.
companies find loopholes wherever they can,
Yeah.
obviously. So it is really hard to know. And that's why, you guys and we share values in terms of like being able to raise our own food, and that is the only guarantee, is that you either know your farmer very closely and you
Mhm.
trust them and you have a relationship with them and you develop something that goes deeper than just like taking your food home from them, and or you raise your own and you find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Hey, do you raise bison? Yeah.
So for the past like 12 years, 13 years, my husband and I have been raising grass finished bison.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
was actually, my call to farms was, so I've always had a passion for food and nutrition, and I decided I was working in marketing and like kind of corporate scenarios for a while and needed to follow my passion for food and nutrition. And so I bought this little like organic grocery store in the small Canadian town I was living in. And my husband was just starting out bison ranching at the time and trying to grow a small bison meat business. And I actually sold his meat in my grocery store, and that's
Oh
how
my
we met.
goodness.
And
Nice.
so we have like this very shared passion for producing the most nutrient dense food possible, which we really believe is grass fed bison. It doesn't get any more nutrient dense or healthy than that.
Goes
Wanted
on
to
the
know
bone.
my rancher so well that I married him.
That's
Oh, that's
right.
so good. What a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
story.
Yes. He hit all
Yeah.
the words.
Yeah. So him and I, so bison was really, my passion for food and like sourcing really high quality animal proteins had always been there, but the bison connection was really him. He was a welder, journeyman welder, and also same, wasn't finding like joy and fulfillment out of his work, wanted something more meaningful. And yeah, I just one day was like sitting at his mom's house, and there was this coffee table book that this incredible person who's now like one of our best friends, basically one of the world's leading experts in bison, had drawn. He's an author, a bison expert, and also an illustrator. He
Hmm.
draws like beautiful hand drawn images of bison. And so he's just flipping through this book and was like, wow, bison are really cool. Like, I want to go like find some meat. And then he started exploring the idea of bison and kind of just got further and further pulled into this world, and then like became, fell in love with the animal from the book, but also just starting to dabble in it and ended up branch managing. And then anyways, from there, it's been almost 15 years now of him being involved in bison. And he scooped me up a couple years into that journey. And so we've basically taken it together. And
Wow.
I've had my own pursuits of like nutrition kind of greater than just bison ranching, but it's always been a really big part of our lifestyle. And we want to raise our kids that way. We want to be a ranching family. We want to be close to our food. We want to be close to the land and the animals and the soil and all of those good things. So yeah, we share a passion for that, and it's part of what defines our whole life.
It's
Ah,
so
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, it is. How many heads of bison do you have and how much acreage again?
Well, we lease about 4,800 acres, and
Wow.
on that ranch we have, I don't know, 65 animals. It's pretty small herd there. And we
Mhm.
actually just bought our first piece of land ourselves. If you didn't own land, or your parents don't own land, it's quite hard to get
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
the land market. So we just bought 160 acres, equivalent of a quarter
Wow.
section, and we have plans to put bison there very soon. Probably by winter we'll have it ready to have some animals there too. So
There's something so special about bison. There's such majestic animals, and we got up and close with them in North Dakota visiting the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And then I also saw that
The
that yeah,
Yellowstone.
video that went viral about the gentleman that got hurt by a
yeah,
bison. But I'm like, oh my
he got
goodness.
like thrown up in the
Yes.
air. Yeah.
So definitely a lot of respect for what you both are doing. And I
Yeah.
mean, we have cattle, but I mean, bison are, yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head about them being just something different. Like I haven't met anyone yet who we love bringing people out to be in the herd and be amongst the bison and experience them.
Yeah.
But I've never met someone who isn't like really deeply impacted by being close to a herd of bison.
Yeah.
And everyone remarks the same thing, which is like there's something different than cattle about them. They seem more intelligent and have like this wisdom about them that you can't really describe. And yeah, they move me every time I'm with them. We love being out. We love bringing our kids out. But yeah, you always have to exercise a level of caution. They are somewhat wild. We do treat them as best we can as wild animals. That's something that we really value, is allowing them to express their evolutionary behavior and not try to treat them like cattle, because they're not. And we don't pull, there's no such thing in bison ranching as pulling calves. We try to handle them quite minimally. Like we might bring them in for tagging if necessary once a year. But we really try to stay pretty hands off with them. And so, their flight zone is quite a bit larger than cattle in the sense that you can't get as close to them as cows. And we really honor that. We don't try to push them. And we also practice low stress stockmanship. So we do most of our herding on foot. We try really hard to keep it quiet and not use even machines or quads or side by sides or anything like that to move them. It just makes for a more pleasant experience. And yeah, you got to get some steps in and takes longer, but yeah, we really try to honor them as an animal and what they like and what they need. And yeah, I think we have good relationships with our animals, and they respect us, we respect them. So we've never had, we've had some dicey scenarios. Obviously, if you're going to raise bison, you know that you're going to get into a squirrely situation here and there. But a lot of it is knowing when and what to do. For example, moms and their calves, especially older cows and their calves, that's when it can get a little bit squirrely and getting really close to big bulls like that guy in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm just really curious. So I have to ask. So when you harvest your bison, then you have to take it to a special, or do you do it yourself?
It depends on the situation. Ideal scenario for us is obviously field slaughter, field harvest,
Right.
where they're just in the field and we can shoot them where they're at. If we do that, essentially the meat can't be sold. Very rarely will we sell our meat in a store anyways. Like usually we're going direct to consumer and they're buying a half or a whole animal, and we do it that way. So yeah, we have an abattoir close to us that they will come out and do field harvest for us, which is awesome.
That's great.
What it was like in Canada.
Yeah.
It's not everywhere though, and I would say it really varies by, ranch, slaughterhouse, what's close by. I'm sure you guys have experienced this too, but processing facilities are really hard to come by, especially ones in the States. The USDA approved processing facilities, there's like hardly any. But for us, for animal welfare, it's second to none to just be able to shoot them in the field. Like there's no better way to respect the animal than to do it that way. And also meat quality. Most people will say in the industry that the stress of bringing them into a slaughterhouse changes the meat and the flavor of the meat just because of the stress hormones. So quality wise too, it's better.
And do you know anything about the way that Ancestral Supplements harvests, and does their kill their animals? Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it's field harvest.
Yeah. Well, that what you're doing is so beautiful on your land with your animals, with your family. It's so cool. We'd love to visit one day.
You're welcome anytime. And to be honest, it would be hard, for a big business and a company to be buying animals, en masse like that to expect. It would be so expensive to do it that way. But there's some really innovative ranchers, bison and otherwise, in the States who do field harvest. We were inspired by a bison ranch in South Dakota called Wild Idea. And if anyone wants to buy bison in the US, that's where to source. Either that or North Bridger bison. They're in Montana. Both of those ranches, they field harvest pretty much
Oh,
exclusively.
That's cool.
that's
And
great to know.
the price is reflective of the process.
Sure.
But to me, I mean, what better way to spend your money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it speaks volumes to Ancestral Supplements that they hire you to speak on and educate others. You're actually living the lifestyle as well.
That's
And
right.
that's wonderful. Why don't you? I'm just going to ask the elephant in the room about you have competition in this field. What sets Ancestral Supplements apart?
I think just so quality, we always try to uphold our standards, no binders, no fillers, no lubricants, no flow agents. We try to source the best possible animals we can find. We try to keep it as pure as possible. But also like our values, the values behind our brand, we want to try to really help restore people to health and strength and happiness. And I work with everyone who works at Ancestral. Like there's a small team, like not even 30 people. And every single person who works for the company believes in this mission and is so passionate about the products and everything that we're doing. And I do think that reflects in the product. We also have a great work culture where, everyone is not bought in, like it's something that you have to like drink the Kool-Aid for, but everyone really fundamentally believes in the products and the mission. So yeah, I think that's what separates it. I think it's like the best company in the world to work for, in my opinion. And our products are a reflection of that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Mhm.
Well, I know something that we talked earlier was talking about how, this eating nutrient dense food, that was the way of the traditional, or the way that our ancestors ate.
Mhm.
If we, and there's this whole movement of people now being okay with starting to source and look for liver and heart and kidneys and even brain. We have a
Yeah.
good friend behind Pluck, and he just released like a freeze dried brain product that can't keep on the shelves because
Crazy.
everybody's buying them out. But I would love to hear your thoughts on, the way that we are moving towards that direction. Do you think there'll be a world where if we went back to our ancestral nutrition, we wouldn't need to be able to use, we wouldn't need to be so dependent on the liver capsules?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I don't know if I have the answer, but I could. So for me, I really think and I don't know what you're seeing in the space, but I think the plant-based movement is losing a lot of steam, which I'm really grateful for because I sincerely believe animal-based foods need to be included in the diet. I was reading a paper. So if in a typical omnivorous diet, so someone who eats both plants and animals, the animal-based portion of that diet makes up 65% of the nutrient density of the diet. So like the idea that we're omitting animal foods to me is just not the way. Plant-based people are going to hate me for that, but I really just don't think it is. I don't think monocropping plants on large scale is the answer. I think we need to focus way more on how we raise animals regeneratively and more efficiently and start to innovate a little in terms of like the economics of ranching, which have become, yeah, like I said, the whole land conundrum is really an issue for ranchers and especially people who want to get into ranching or start trying to do that as a career. To purchase land and then expect that ranching is going to pay for that land is pretty well impossible. So something has to change there, potentially from maybe it's government intervention, maybe it's not, maybe it's just innovation. But right now we subsidize crop farmers a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think some of the priority around what foods get encouraged in the food system needs to change.
Yeah.
So I think if people were to be eating a more animal-based diet, I think it would become less of a problem, the nutrient density question. But at the same time, 95% of the world's food is produced in soil, duh. And our soil is becoming less productive and it holds less nutrient capacity.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
There was a study comparing fruits and vegetables, I think from like the 50s to 1999 or something. And over that time, the plants they tested had lost something like up to 40% of the nutrient density in those different things. So I think our soils are just getting slowly more depleted over time, and thereby our food is becoming less and less nutritious.
Right.
The system has been focusing a lot on yield, but yield does not necessarily mean, like, just because you're producing more corn doesn't mean that corn is any better. Do you know what I mean? And that corn doesn't have as much nutrient density. So we almost have this like dilution effect where we're having more food, but it actually is like less bang for the buck.
Exactly.
Empty calories.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just something that I've been thinking about. Well, in America here, the FDA earlier this year or the last couple of months, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., what he did
Mm-hmm.
basically inverted the food pyramid. But the recommendation is now more animal-based food before grains, and that's something that is encouraging to see, and it gives me hope that hopefully other Americans and Canadians, I forget that you're in Canada, but you might not have, maybe you might have heard of that or been familiar with that here in
Yes,
the,
yes, yes.
um, but I really hope that that encourages people to take a look at, what
Mhm.
can we do to change this around and really look at the nutrient density of meats and how important it is to have
Mm-hmm.
meat and protein as the number one item that we should be eating, because I grew up with the mentality that food is medicine. That's just what
Yes.
my grandpa taught me. So
Mm-hmm.
before anything, before we even have any other supplements like vitamin B12, which, my mom went to a doctor and recently told her, you need more vitamin B12. And I said, well, liver, you've got to take
Yeah.
these liver pills. And she's like, no, I need to go to the store and get vitamin B12. And I'm curious to hear, maybe I should have you answer that question, because then I can just play that clip back, because I've already told her, it really doesn't make any sense for you to buy a vitamin B12. Like, that is the most silliest thing to do. You're basically just pouring your money down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
What is your recommendation for things like, your vitamin B deficiencies?
Yeah, I think so as I said, I think soils are being depleted, food quality is going down, and nutrient deficiencies or insufficiencies even, because, you know, there there are definitely scenarios, because I've been a clinical nutritionist as well, sort of like along the way, where I've been working with clients one-on-one to like improve their nutrition status or whatever. So we run a lot of I've looked at a lot of labs. And so, vitamin D, B12,
Mhm.
magnesium, a lot of these things, people are chronically deficient or
Yeah.
insufficient, where maybe they're not below what's categorized as normal, but they're on the low end of normal. Or, some of these scales even are based on really average, people, and it's really hard to say for an individual what's good. But I do think that nutrient deficiencies are and insufficiencies are quite common. Probably partly because we are losing the quality of our food, and also people are just not eating nutrient dense food anymore, to the extent that we now have to like fortify foods to make sure everyone gets what they're supposed to be needing, which
And
I think
even
is like a crazy thing to do. We're adding synthetic vitamins back into food these days because everyone just needs it, instead of like, instead of questioning the root cause, we're just sort of putting a band-aid on it. So I do think it's quite individual. But obviously for me, as a whole, kind of a whole food based nutritionist, like, I don't believe it's sustainable to stack people with 12 vitamins they have to take every day. So for me, I'm always food first. How do we shore up your nutrient needs with real food? And then if that's not possible, or if you have a severe deficiency, or if you want, an insurance policy, then let's think about something. And this is why I really like Ancestral, because it is just real food. It's just encapsulated. So for a lot of people, cooking organ meats is not palatable. or it's just not feasible because they can't find it. So to me, it is a really good, it's still a supplement, quote unquote, but it isn't to the extent that it is just food freeze dried in a capsule. So to me, I think I think about it quite differently. Um, and it really just makes it convenient to consume these like really high quality nutrient dense foods in a way that, for me, I can open up 6 of these capsules in a little smoothie for my kids, and they'll have no idea they have eaten an ounce of liver in their smoothie or whatever. And it's basically, you can't taste it. So it is a tricky way too for kids if they're
Okay.
off.
Yeah.
But yeah, for your mom, for example, I would always encourage, find the most nutrient dense foods for B12 first and try to incorporate more of that in the diet, and then retest. And if her B12 levels aren't, restored or markedly improved by eating more B12 rich foods, then perhaps question, maybe there's something unique about her genetics that makes her low in B12. But a synthetic B12 is definitely not more bioavailable than real food. So
Perfect. I needed that clip right there. So.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
mom.
Yeah. And everything you said, Julia, up to that point is so true because we see it firsthand. The rising costs of land as realtors and as lenders, we're trying to help others be able to purchase their own land and grow their own food, raise their own livestock. And the fact that they're getting priced out because of the rising cost of beef here as well. You can't just get started right away, but there are ways to get around, and there are ways if you can come together or lease land as you guys have done as well. There are options out there, but there are a lot of things stacked against in terms of trying to get more nutrient dense foods. And even right now we use bricks testing to test the nutrient density, but also I'm not wearing my shirt with buy dirt build soil, but that's a mission that both of us, that we always want to educate others on how you can take the dead, lifeless dirt and create and build up the soil, build more life into it by introducing the local microbes into it, and getting away from the harmful chemicals and the harmful amendments to the soil. But that's all traditional thinking. And even where we're at, we're seeing some changes now. We're actually seeing even some of the old timers here, and they're less likely to say that's how we've been doing it for generations. And like they're starting to open up their perspectives and say, okay, we can start doing it this way instead of doing what we've always been doing and just soil testing and adding these chemicals to it. So everything has been changing. I think what RFK Jr. has been doing has been really good, at least to help spur on questions. What you mentioned about how we buy beef from outside and bring it in, that's something that is a tragedy, and it is absolutely true. We even learned when we went recently to the Big Island in Hawaii that they bring their beef because we saw cattle on this lush land eating grass, and we're like, wow, grass fed. And then we actually spoke to the locals when we went to the farmers market and found out that they actually fly them, and they'll ship them, but also fly them over because money can be made to large feedlots in America, well, on mainland, and then afterwards sell it back to them so that tourists who buy, they can purchase island beef. And that is just, I just can't believe that they do this.
That's nonsensical.
Something needs to change.
But the profit is there because we asked them, still profitable? Like, do they sell their cattle before they put them on those airplanes or before they put them on the ships?
Yeah.
And they said, nope, they keep them through because the money is made when they fatten them up in the States and then at the mainland in the feedlots.
So our call to farms is to do exactly what you're doing as well, growing and raising our own food, but also educating others. And we were wanting to help others afford and help qualify so they can purchase land, so they can grow their own beef, grow their own food, raise your own animals, and not rely on these huge companies and their large stockyards. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. And I love that what you guys are providing your company is getting something that's truly more accessible for those who can't purchase the land right now who can't have their own cattle and be able to harvest their own meat, but having it in a capsule that is very few ingredients and is all natural, and being able to get those supplements. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a start.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
fill. I was looking at it. I'm really excited.
Mhm.
There's the
Yeah.
female enhancement. For those of us that may be going through perimenopause or menopause, or maybe looking to get pregnant or anything like that, can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about your female enhancement, your fem supplement?
Hmm. Yeah, so it is basically just a hormone support. So it's really geared toward, based on the like supports like philosophy. So eating certain parts of the animal are going to help support that part of your body. And I mean, there's not a lot of science behind that I can reference, but I think this philosophy has sort of stood the test of time. And so that product is specifically for women, and it is a hormonal support. So we've had so many testimonials from clients about how that's changed things for them in terms of positive impacts on their cycle,
Mm.
fertility impacts, and yeah, like even perimenopause, menopause, making that phase of life a little bit more kind of easy to endure. So yeah, like the number of testimonials that we receive to our tribe support line is kind of mind blowing. You know, we get a lot of people saying this product has changed my life. I used to have terrible periods. Now my periods have improved. So I'm technically not allowed to say like it solves all of these problems, because that would be a compliance issue, but it definitely does support hormones. And I can say authentically, we receive so many stories from our customers talking about the impacts that our products have on them and their families. Yeah, I'm actually starting to do a little bit of a series now where I'm going to be doing video interviews with some of our customers, because these stories need to start getting out and people need to start sharing more actively. But we have a lot of what I would say evangelists out there who really love our product and have had kind of incredible results. And Fem is one of those products that comes up sort of time and time again. So
Great. Well, do you have anything for men?
Yeah, besides females.
yes, so we have a MoFo product, which is like our male enhancement as well. And it is testicle, heart, prostate, liver, bone, and marrow in one formula. And people love that because it's all of those things in one. It's not just like straight up testicle. But it does support, it contains mostly testicle. And so it contains what would be kind of naturally occurring in bovine testicle. It doesn't contain testosterone. It's not like a testosterone replacement. Some people have that misconception, but the purpose is to just provide like the whole food building blocks that that support male vitality, hormonal, prostate, even cardiovascular or heart health benefits as well, through like this ancestral wisdom, like I said, like supports like. So yeah, it's also a great product, and we have tons of dudes who love that one as well.
I'm definitely going to try it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I mean I love what you said about food, about soil, and really getting back to the land. One thing that
Mhm.
I'm really passionate about, and it's not sexy at all, and I wish like more influencers thought soil was sexy, because we would really be getting somewhere. But you know, soil is not only like this stuff that roots just happen to grow in. It's like this living ecosystem, and it's also like a water storage capacity. It's a
Mhm.
carbon sequestration mechanism. 1% organic matter in the top 6 inches of soil can hold like 27,000 gallons of water or something like that. So all of these water issues we're starting to see, where there's not enough water
Mhm.
for us to drink and people are starting to be concerned about water, it does have a lot to do with the fact our soils are just not holding as much anymore.
Hmm.
And then just the nutrient density component, like how our soils are sort of devoid of the nutrition and the nutrient cycling that would normally happen if it was like full of life and actually functioning like it should, versus us adding amendments to it. But I really do think like soil health is human health, and it's a huge miss right now, and it has been. I think it's gaining some traction, but what our animals graze on is directly related to. It's starting to become very clear that what they eat impacts the metabolomics of the meat itself.
Mhm.
And so the more diverse we can make our soils, the more soil we can build, the more diversity we can have of the plants our animals are eating, I think the better health outcomes we will have. Unfortunately, the science just isn't there yet, but like, you are what your animal eats.
You
You
are what
are
your food ate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
are what
say
your food ate. You know, people have said that, but it is so, so true. They're starting to realize that, like, even regenerative systems or systems with more plant diversity, you're
Right.
seeing more polyphenols, better omega-3 profile, all these different compounds, like more vitamin A, more vitamin E, mostly
Mhm.
like the phytochemicals and the antioxidants that are sort of missing. Soil diversity really helps to improve those. So when we're talking about nutrient density in food, potentially the diversity of the diets of the animals that we're eating, if we improve that, we can also, lessen our need for supplements and things like that, because we can be getting more nutrient density in the actual food itself if the soil is healthy and the animals are grazing a wide variety of plants, which
Right.
is like really missing, really missing.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of the things that we talk about in our upcoming book, The Nourishing Asian Homestead. We do a
oh,
lot
cool.
of Korean natural farming, which really, when we travel, what we do is we like to basically hunt for microbes. And then we bring them
Yeah.
home and we spread them out into our soil. And that's mainly because we want to improve the biodiversity of the soil, of the grass, of the plants and vegetables that we're eating, the animals are eating the grass, and literally spreading it everywhere. We have our cows that we then make our lab, lactobacillus, and a lot of it we try to keep directly on our land, on our soil, and just making these ferments so that we can improve the health of our soil, because that just means that our plants are healthier. We don't have to be using any type of pesticides or herbicides or anything like that, because they're not going to be attracted to a healthy plant. It's kind of like
Mhm.
microbiome, our gut and soil microbiome are the same microbes that we're finding. And to your point, yes, the science hasn't caught up yet in terms of, there really is not a lot of money that corporations can make from saying things like, you can farm off of making your own inoculations off of the weeds off of your land.
Mhm.
He is made when you are dependent on
Mhm.
buying fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides all over the world, because you can make it in a lab, but it doesn't mean that it's sustainable. Number one, doesn't mean it's the best quality. It doesn't mean that it's regenerative. It's something that you have to consistently add season after season, year after year, but it's not regenerative.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, yeah, you just hit all the keywords, and I was like, I'm so
That's so
excited.
cool.
Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. If you care for yourself, your family,
Mhm.
those around you, and your community, you got to take care of your soil.
But you're our people, and I think we're your people too. And everything we talked about, we covered a lot of ground tonight, and talking about animal health, talking about soil health. I mean, it's all synergistic. It's all really good stuff. Is there anything that we did not cover yet? Is there something else that you wanted to talk about, or is there anything upcoming with Ancestral Supplements?
We are launching some fun new things. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what they are, but we have some
Okay.
kind of unconventional for us products coming. But again, still sticks to our philosophy of really like naturally derived ingredients that are sort of innovative in the space. So I wish I could say, I'll tell you guys off the
Okay.
recording.
Yeah.
We'll love to hear.
But yeah, some exciting things. Our team is growing, so we have more capacity to do really interesting and innovative products. So we're working on some stuff. But overall, no, we covered so many things that are really near and dear to my heart, and I'm super passionate, and I'm just really grateful to have had the opportunity to meet you and talk about it. And hopefully your listeners get some value from our conversation, and hopefully they can go out and find some organs, whether it's real or supplement form.
Yeah.
I hope that this inspires someone to to overcome the ick factor and just give it a try
Mm.
in some form or another, because I really think food waste is a big issue, and we could talk for 10 hours about that even.
Mhm.
So yeah, we need to go back to put back a little bit of what's been lost with the modern diet, and start looking to the past for some inspiration on how we can be healthier and stronger. So
Well, thank you so much, Julia. I had such
yeah.
a great time on this conversation.
Mhm.
And we'll have a link below for all of our listeners who want a special discount code that we have with Ancestral Supplements. I highly recommend giving it a try. If you haven't had any organ meats, if it's hard for you to source good quality, I know that that's a huge thing as well, which is why we started farming ourselves, because we just weren't sure how things were sourced so well. But with brands like Ancestral Supplements, where you can clearly hear from Julia, her passion so much for the work that she does at Ancestral Supplements, and also what she does at home with her family with a bison ranch. It's really exciting to see that other people care just as much and are making huge waves
Yeah.
in this next wave of, modern ancestral
And so
supplements.
for our listeners, where can they learn more about you, Julia, as well as Ancestral Supplements?
Okay, so Ancestral Supplements, you can go to ancestralsupplements.com, or pretty much on any platform at Ancestral Supplements. And I'm usually on there like once a week answering questions, but you can find me on Instagram too at Julia the Nutritionist.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Wealth of information. Thank you for coming on to our
Yeah.
show. I'm sure our listeners really enjoyed it. And for all of you who found this very beneficial, then please feel free to share this episode out to your friends, family members, or anyone else that you think needs to hear this. We would be very grateful for that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Until then, thank you again, Julia, for coming on. And we really enjoyed this conversation. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in. Until then, stay healthy.
Bye, everyone.